My brothers and sisters, welcome to episode number 163 in the book of Genesis. Today is about 9,000 faithful days, all lived one at a time, just like ours. So let's start with a passage. This is from Genesis chapter 41, and Pharaoh is elevating Joseph to be his kind of right-hand man. Joseph gives the interpretation of some dreams, two dreams, that 7 years of plenty are going to come, and then 7 years of famine. And then now what are we going to do? So we'll pick it up in verse 38. Pharaoh asks, "Can we find a man like this in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has shown you all this, there's none so discerning and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards as the throne, I will be greater than you." And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh took a signet ring from his hand, put it on Joseph's hand, clothed him in garments of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him ride in his second chariot. And they called out before him, "Bow the knee." Thus he set them over the land of Egypt. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, and without your consent no one shall lift up a hand or a foot in all the land of Egypt." And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphenath-Paneah. And he also gave him in marriage Asenath, the daughter of Potphera, priest of On. So Joseph went out over the land of Egypt. So Joseph gets this representative authority. He gets all the trappings of authority: a ring, clothing, jewelry, and my favorite, chariot. So the chariot was the M1 tank of its day, or it's the invention of the chariot was as significant as like using airplanes in warfare. It was expensive, it was difficult to build, it was a symbol of great power. And then he also gets this respect, and he also gets marriage, and he gets freedom to travel. So Joseph's life really, really changed. You know, a few minutes ago, he was in prison. Verse 46, Joseph was 30 years old. That's the big part of the lesson for me today. When he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. So he started at 17, now he's 30, 13 years later. During the 7 plentiful years, the earth produced abundantly, and he gathered up all the food of these 7 years which occurred in the land of Egypt, and put the food in the cities. He put in every city the food from fields around it. And Joseph stored up grain in great abundance, like the sand of the sea, until he ceased to measure it, for it could not be measured. Before the year of the famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph. Asenath, the daughter of Potphera, the priest of On, bore to him. Joseph called the first of the firstborn Manasseh, for he said, "God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house." Wow, poignant. The name of the second shall be called Ephraim, for God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. Okay, so the sons of the Egyptian priests of On's daughter bears those who will give an inheritance of the land, the heritage of people, and the ongoing presence of the Lord. I just found that very ironic that this priestess's sons are going to become princes of Egypt, if you will, and they're going to fulfill the promises of Abraham, which is the great-great-grandfather of Joseph. So they're going to inherit the promises from Abraham to eventually save the world. All right, verse 53. The 7 years of plenty that occurred in the land of Egypt came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began to come, as Joseph had said. There was famine in all the lands, but in all the lands of Egypt there was bread. When all the lands of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Pharaoh said to the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph, what he says to you, do." So when the famine had spread over all the land, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. Moreover, all the earth came to Egypt to Joseph to buy the grain, because the famine was so severe over all the earth. So let's talk about time, because this is what struck me so much today. Joseph is 17-year-old when he goes on this little support mission to his brothers who were out in the field. They capture him, they put him in a pit, and they were going to kill him, and they decide, no, we'll sell him to slavery. He goes, he works for Potiphar in a different country in Egypt, and then Potiphar's wife wants to mess around with him, and he gets wrongly imprisoned and wrongly accused and wrongly imprisoned. Then the cupbearer who was supposed to remember him, he forgets about him. And 13 years later, so much of it in, some of it in prison, some of it in slavery. He's put in charge of Egypt 13 years later. So this is a long time to be in a pit. And think of this, he'll be 37 after the years of plenty. He'll be 43 years at the end of the famine. And 25 years later, he's going to see his brother. So he's going to be away from his brother for 25 years. And that is a long time to be faithful. And Christianity, here's the big point for today. Christianity is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So let's be faithful each day, one day at a time. And if you add up 25 years, that's 9,125 days until the redemptive part of saving Israel comes to the fore, until Jacob is seen as his father and is restored to his 11 brothers. 9,000 days. So the question today is, where are you today on your number of faithful days? Is today the day that you start? Is it day number 1? Or how about, is it one of your stay with the Lord days? Hang on during this difficult or particular day. And then tomorrow, perhaps it's your 9,000th day. God bless you if it is. It's one day at a time. So here's my prayer today. Lord, whatever is before my listener today, will you help? You have already given us your word. Now please grant your presence. Desperately, we reach out for what may be a difficult day. I ask for a faithful response to the challenges today, like Joseph, whether they be economic or sexual or prideful or power, just like Joseph. And I ask for the courage to start if this is day 1, and I ask for your steadfast love, your hesed, if this is day 9,000. May this day and the series of days bring glory to your name and pleasure to your ears. Amen.